Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. My name is Rufus Kamau, Markets Analyst at FXPesa. So today, we'll be talking about the top market events that we are expecting this week, with a key focus on the non-farm payrolls that is happening on this Friday as we enter the month of November. So once we go through all the top events, we'll do some technical analysis and try to understand where the markets might be headed next. So as always, I'll begin with a disclaimer that this session is not investment advice. It is not a recommendation to trade, so you should always do your own due diligence. So once you join in, kindly say hi on the live comment section, and these will confirm that everything is working just fine. All right. So let's begin with the economic calendar. Try to understand the top events on the calendar before we make further progress. So good morning, Noniza Jack. Thank you for joining. Good morning, Samuel Njoroge. Maureen, thank you for joining. Stan FX, hi, and welcome to the session. You can see Shadrach in the house. Revizel, thank you for joining. So let's get things started. So on the economic calendar, it's quite, I would say, busy. But for Monday, we don't have much happening. So we don't have a lot of events that we should be expecting to see in the markets today. It's quite normal for Mondays to be like this in the market. Of course, we have a daylight saving time shift in Switzerland, the Eurozone, and the UK. So there will be lower house elections in Japan happening all day. And of course, there is a bank holiday in New Zealand. So nothing much to expect from the economic calendar. Sorry, this was on Sunday. So Monday, CBI realized sales, CB leading index, and of course, a speech at 8:30 p.m. From the Bank of Canada Governor Macklem. And that could bring in some volatility in Canadian dollar pairs. However, for the rest of the week, we'll be having the Case-Shiller Composite 20 Housing Price Index at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, before we focus on the Conference Board Consumer Confidence Survey and the JOLTS job openings. Then on Wednesday, we'll be having inflation report from Australia showing the level of inflation, which is expected to have dropped to 2.3%, down from the previous reading of 2.7%. We'll be getting the German preliminary CPI affecting the euro on Wednesday. Then later on, the ADP non-farm payrolls, as well as the advanced GDP from the US. So of course, Wednesday, this is when you get more volatility on USD pairs. Then we get manufacturing PMI from China on Thursday at 4:30 a.m. before we focus on the main Asian event of the week, which will be an interest rate decision by the Bank of Japan. Of course, it's expected to hold rates at the current level of 0.25%. So nothing much is expected from the decision. But of course, the monetary policy statement, the Bank of Japan outlook report, and of course, the press conference will be impactful for JPY traders, especially considering that the Japanese yen has been losing to the dollar. And recently, we saw the market rally going to 153, which we'll be covering in the technical analysis part of today's presentation. So we'll be getting the CPI flash estimate for the Eurozone, and it's expected that inflation may have jumped slightly higher to 1.9% and still below the ECB target of 2%. So that's good for the ECB. Then we get the core PCE price index, which is the Fed's favorite measure of inflation. This will be on Thursday at 3:30 p.m. We'll be getting Canadian GDP data at the same time, as well as the employment cost index and the unemployment claims weekly report. So fast forward, we'll be getting the main news of the week on Friday in the afternoon. But before that, we'll be getting inflation and retail sales data from Switzerland, where inflation is expected to have dropped, had zero change in the past month in Switzerland. despite having negative 0.3% in the previous reading. So the non-farm payrolls expectation in this case is 111,000 jobs, way smaller than the previous reading that was better than expected at 254k jobs, and unemployment rate is expected to remain the same at 4.1%. Then the last event of the week will be the ISM manufacturing PMI at 5 p.m. Of course, it will be a key indicator in showing the level of manufacturing trends in the US. So besides this, there's a lot more happening in the week. One, we know that there is a current developments happening in the Middle East. Over the weekend, we had a lot of these strikes happening between US and Iran, and that has had some significant impacts in the market. Of course, the biggest worry was whether Israel would strike the oil infrastructure in Iran, but then that didn't happen. And as the market opened today, there was a big drop in oil prices by over 4% this morning. So looking at other things that we are expecting to see in the markets, I'll be showing you a brief highlight. So, of course, we have the countdown on the US election. Now it's just 7 days away, 12 hours. So it's getting closer and closer to the US election, and you might see a lot of investors going into cash. And by cash, I mean going for cash and cash equivalents. Already, the market opened quite positively in the US bonds market with a very strong rally. The dollar index also opened the week higher, reclaiming 104.4 levels. So all these shows increased confidence in the US, especially given the bets have been very high about the Trump winning the election, which we don't know yet. But if you look at the poly markets, which is a betting market where different people place wagers on who they expect to be winning the election, then in this case, we have over $2 billion prize money for the US election. And in this case, Donald Trump has a probability of 66.3% of winning, while Kamala Harris has 33.8%. And this is not based on what the US is doing, it's based on the people who have placed bets expecting to win money if their bet actually comes out as a win. So on the earnings side, we have about 20% of the SP 500 companies reporting earnings this week. And some of the key highlights include Meta. Meta Platforms is the new name for Facebook. And in this case, we'll be expecting some big market volatility to be happening later in the week. So for SP 500 traders and NASDAQ 100 index traders, we should be expecting to see some good action on Wednesday when some of these big tech companies report their earnings. So for Meta Platforms, there's a big expectation of $5.24 per share, which should be up 19.4% year over year from a revenue of 40.3 billion, which would be 18% higher year over year. So besides that, we also have Apple and Amazon reporting in the week, and this will be happening on Thursday. So all these are companies reporting earnings this week. So I'm just going through the highlights. So Amazon, one of the many noteworthy names on Thursday's earnings calendar, is set to disclose its third quarter results after the market close. So clearly, we should be expecting some good activity from this one. And of course, they have big weighting on the NASDAQ 100 index. So if they outperform, then we could be seeing an extension of the rally in the stock market that we are seeing right now. So lastly, there's Apple. It will be announcing its earnings on Thursday. Of course, we should be expecting to see some good market volatility from this one. And now combining that this will be happening on Thursday, and we have the non-farm payrolls on Friday, then it should be a very busy week for traders. And of course, a lot of opportunities will be coming up. So on another note, there is quite a number of highlights in the stock markets this week. So a very nice article detailing some of the key developments we should be expecting to follow this week. So the fast food giant McDonald's had an issue with an outbreak of a disease coming from the company, and the company was put under investigation for the E. coli outbreak, and this led to a big sell-off with the stock ending the week down 8%. So this should be of keen interest, especially considering it's a big company, and if they continue having issues with the regulator, then we could be seeing the stock trading down lower. So Capri Holdings was another noteworthy decliner Friday, cratering 49% after a US judge on Thursday broke the luxury retailer's proposed merger with Michael Kohl's parent Tapestry. So that should have some more developments happening in the week. Deckers was up 11% after the company reported better than expected earnings last week. And of course, we should be expecting to see more activity on the stock. So Apple gets downgraded ahead of earnings. In this case, it's mainly because they are planning to release a new model of the iPhone called the iPhone SE model. And this is planned to launch in early 2025 or early next year. And it's possible that the phone will be very similar to the iPhone 14. And if it becomes popular, then it could reduce sales for iPhone 16, which sells at a premium price. The special edition models tend to be cheaper. And in this case, for this one, it's estimated that it will be retailing at around $400. And it might come with newer features like better cameras, better battery, and of course the Apple Intelligence feature that brings AI into iPhones. So that's quite concerning, and of course we'll be getting more from the Apple earnings report, and of course the earnings call will clarify the issues. So those are the key highlights in the markets today. Of course, these are the developments in the campaigns happening in the US. We might see investors either taking some profits since elections can be volatile. Remember the last election in the US, there was the Capitol Hill event. So if investors are concerned that that might happen or the election could get contested, you might see some investors taking caution and buying some safe haven assets, which might include the dollar. It might also include some gold as well as Bitcoin. So then there is the issue of the UK budget, which is expected to be passed this week. So the new UK Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, will pledge that his government's first budget will put Britain on a new path, one that chooses long-term growth, to put more money in working people's pockets and rebuild public services instead of a return to austerity. So that's will be a key development, and we could be seeing some good volatility in UK pound pairs. So it's something you should pay a close look at, especially on what kind of budget they'll go for, whether they'll be cutting spending or expanding spending, and that will have a real impact on the value of the pound in the market. So I think that's the last highlight. And of course, we have the next Fed meeting, which will be happening next week. And that should be on the 7th of November. And so far, that's 2 days after the US election. And so far, there's an expectation that the Fed might cut rates by 25 basis points. And this could be happening on the 7th. And there's a 98.3% probability the Fed will be cutting rates by 25 basis points. And already the market is questioning that because the market was expecting much bigger rate cuts. So that may explain why we are seeing a strong dollar, but then we could be seeing some surprises on the 7th. So that being said, I believe we have seen the top highlights for the week. So now it's time we jump into some technical analysis, try to understand where the markets might be headed next. And once we cover that, hopefully everyone will trade from an informed perspective. So this is the MetaTrader 5 trading platform. And we'll be looking at quite a number of assets. One, the dollar index, which opened the week quite bullish. So you will notice how we started here with a very strong rally, and then as we enter into the London session, it seems like the dollar index is going back to the Asian low. So this has had a tremendous impact on other currencies, which we will be looking at later in the presentation. So first things first, I know you guys really like trading gold, and as we have been saying, on the current path of gold, anytime we have a pullback, it has been a very good opportunity to buy and enjoy as the prices continued moving higher. So last week, we had a big sell-off here, and this was on Wednesday, which was followed by a very nice pin bar candlestick. The green candlestick with a long tail towards the lower side basically indicated that the market had grabbed some liquidity around this area here, and this was a nice entry point for a buy. So the market kept going up on Thursday and then pulled back, then extended the rally on Friday, ending on a high. So the closing price at the end of the week was at $2,747 per troy ounce of gold. And then today, the market opens with a gap towards the lower side, pushes a little bit. There was a nice rejection candlestick earlier in the day, and now the market is pushing higher to attempt to close this gap. So following what we have seen with the dollar index, that it has been weakening in the later hours of the day, then it's within acceptable terms that even though we don't have much volatility happening in the market on Monday, then it's more likely that gold will be crossing this gap and potentially hitting 27.47 today. So as for the week, it's more likely that we'll be seeing a new all-time high above 27.58. So we'll be monitoring whether the market breaks Friday's high and pushes further to 27.58. So the main reason we are seeing this big gap here could be likely because of the current tensions that were happening in the Middle East. So a lot of traders were afraid that something big could happen or a bigger development could happen over the weekend. So they had placed their bets on gold. And of course, on realizing that the war did not escalate, you have to offload those bets, and that may explain why we had a big gap downwards. However, the overall long-term fundamentals for gold indicate that the bullish momentum might continue for the rest of the year. So besides that, we had the big sell-off in oil. Of course, a lot of traders were expecting if Iran's oil infrastructure is hit over the weekend, that could impact supply, and as a result, we could be seeing prices moving higher. However, since that did not happen, those bets were being unwound at market open today. So immediately the market opened, there was a big crash of about 4.5%. So from here, you can see it's about 5%, and then the market pulled back a little, but then we are seeing more pressure to push prices lower. Of course, today being Monday, we don't expect much of a price action. So we will be monitoring this range where the market is seemingly trading in what looks like a flag. And then if we happen to see a break, then we can bet on a continuation in that direction. But then it hasn't happened yet, so we continue monitoring. So US equity indices having a big earnings week this week. We have been seeing very strong bets on the market making a recovery. Of course, we saw quite a good rally happening on Thursday. Then on Friday, the rally was extended even higher before pulling back towards the end of the day. Then today, the market opened quite strongly, pushing higher. So it's more likely that we will be seeing the Nasdaq 100 index pushing into a new all-time high, which is really close. It's just, I believe, about 1% from the current price level. So about 1.38%, and we see a new all-time high for the Nasdaq. So chances are that the market might continue pushing higher, but for now, it seems like the market is trading in a flag. So if you look at the big move in the morning, and then the preceding move after that, then it seems like we are currently in a flag. So we should be monitoring this to see if there's a break out of this formation. So the US30 or the Dow Jones has been having quite a nice pullback. So for the better part of last week, the Dow Jones was just moving downwards. So we were expecting to see a bounce from this area here after the pin bar. That did not play out. So what we are seeing here is the market opening the week quite bullish, retesting this area here, which will likely be rejected. And if it happens, then we could be seeing the market pushing further back downwards towards the open of the day. So here, now that we are seeing that the market was unable to break this resistance here, so we should be monitoring this to see if there is signs of the market breaking towards the lower side. So for SP500, we had a nice bounce on Wednesday. Thursday, we continued moving higher, and Friday, even higher. So today, we are seeing the market being quite positive. So with the expected earnings for over the week, there's a good chance that the SP500 might be going for last week's high. So we should be looking for any pullbacks to squeeze in more bullish positions. So for the Russell, I believe this has been the weakest index in the US. Of course, we call it the small cap index, mainly because it focuses or it monitors the performance of 2,000 small companies in the US. Of course, we can see that currently we are in what looks like a bullish channel, and the market just came off the upper side of the bullish channel. So that's on the daily. So on the forward chart, we are seeing a market that found resistance here, then here, pulled back downwards. So we should be looking to find some support at some level. But for now, we don't have that yet. So if you look at the lowest prices last week, we were finding some nice support around these areas here. So potentially we could be seeing the market retesting this area before continuing with the channel. So Bitcoin had what looked like a head and shoulder pattern, but it seems like demand is extremely strong. So in this case, after the breakout, the market didn't hold for long. So it just tested the support around 65,258 and then made a strong bounce. And since then, it seems like everything has changed. And now we are moving towards the upper trajectory. So from what we can see here, if you zoom out and go to a 15 minutes chart, then it's more likely that Bitcoin is looking to make a breakout, and another breakout would imply that price heads even higher. So if you look at the highs that we were seeing last week versus what we are seeing this week, then it's more likely that we are getting out of this triangle and the market now proceeds higher. So on the daily time frame, you should know that this was the prevailing trend line for the last 7 months. And Bitcoin was seemingly stuck in this pattern for that period. So it was more of a consolidation. And now if we break above this area, it's more likely to pump even higher. So we could be seeing something like this happening in Bitcoin if it happens to break out above this trend line on the daily. And just to give you an idea of what this could mean, so this is about 90% rally. And it could also be happening from here. So keep monitoring the breakout to see if there's a potential to squeeze in some more buys. So the Nikkei 225 index opened quite strongly today, reversing all the big sell-off that was happening on Friday. So quite a strong rally, but it seems to have taken a break around this area here. But there's still some potential that it could continue pushing higher, reaching levels of 38,875 yen per share. On the major side, we have the dollar yen, which opened with a big gap towards the upper side, and it's continuing to move higher. So from the 4-hour and the daily, you can see that we had this big move when the Bank of Japan was hiking rates, and the yen had strengthened by about 13.79% against the dollar. But then since the Bank of Japan decided they are no longer going to continue hiking rates, we have seen a very strong reversal. First of all, we were having challenges breaking this area here. This is around 151.836, which was a former resistance. But then since the market got there, notice the price action of last week, we managed to break towards the upper side. Market pulled back downwards, and from here on Thursday, remember, you were expecting a strong bounce. So the market was a little bit slow on Thursday and Friday, But then you can see towards the end of the day on Friday, there was a nice bounce and then acceleration today. Of course, we expect the market to continue pushing higher. So unless something changes on the meeting by the Bank of Japan later in the week, then we should be expecting the dollar to continue gaining against the yen. So AUD/USD might as well be the trade for the day. What we are seeing here is a market that has been stuck in this channel for a while. So the market just got towards the lower side of the channel, made quite a nice bounce. So we should be expecting to see more of this kind of activity. So potentially the market making a rally today and looking to see some of these levels being hit. Without much volatility, we could be seeing 0.662. Here, the market hitting these areas here. And if there's still more momentum, the market extending the rally to the high that we saw on Friday, around 0.66441. So pound yen also making an impressive rally against the yen. So in this case, when you combine what's happening with the UK budget, you look at the price action pattern here, and the breakout that formed last week, then it's within expectation to see that the market made a breakout here, pulled back and continued pushing higher. So we are basically entering into a new leg of pound yen. So potentially we could be seeing this pair extending to this tip here around 200.477. So for pound USD, as I mentioned, it's a big week for the pound USD traders, mainly because of the large number of news that might be happening in the week. So following the UK budget, you could be seeing some good volatility happening in the week. So a key level to watch is here. Notice how the market found resistance and then now turned into a support. So potentially, if the pound happens to strengthen for the week, that will be a key level to watch. So far, I believe it's still stuck within this pattern here. So notice how it has been moving along this line here. Of course, on the lower side, this has been the overall movement. So it's basically trading within a channel. So now the market is just attempting to push higher and retest the upper trend line. So a retest would basically mean the market gets to this area here. And this is around Thursday's high. So the highest price that we saw on Thursday could as well be a target for pound USD traders. And that's for basically intraday trading. And of course, we don't have much volatility today. So for the euro, since we had this double top formation that looks like an M, eventually we got the breakout and the market accelerated downwards all the way down to a level we had projected to be working as our support. So this was the area we were observing as the market kept going down. So we enjoyed the strong bearish momentum, but now that bearish momentum may have come to an end following the big rally that we saw on the last 2 days of last week. That's Thursday and Friday. And the key point here is that the market was able to form a new high that was higher than the previous one. So in this case, this was the high that we saw here. Then the market broke this high. And then after pulling back downwards, the low that we saw here earlier this morning was not lower than Thursday or Wednesday, meaning that this particular trend is coming to an end and the euro could be headed higher now. So this is what I'm talking about. Market makes a breakout, pulls back, and then bounces strong, indicating that the euro could now potentially rally and get to the previous high here, around 1.08366 dollars per euro. Of course, we have the UK 100 index, which is still stuck in this kind of a range. So nothing much to do here unless the market gets to either of the extreme areas. So we should be monitoring this area here. Of course, this other area here to be looking for trades once the market gets to either of those. But in between, it doesn't make a lot of sense. So among other pairs in the market, we have the USD trading against the Swiss franc. So eventually we managed to break out of this formation. The market rallied on Friday. Then today continued moving higher, but it has already erased some of those gains. So from what we are looking at here is a market that could potentially close the gap and the gap is slightly lower, so potentially getting to the Friday's closing price of 0.86663. So as for the New Zealand USD pair, it seems like a common theme this week. The market is just bouncing off these channels. So in this case, the channel I'm talking about is this one, where the market has been extremely bearish. Now, as the week starts, we are seeing buyers coming in, and well, it's not one of those very promising moves, but short term, we could be seeing the market moving higher. And of course, these areas that were acting as support could now be turned into resistance around 0.59910 for New Zealand USD currency pair. Card, we were expecting a potential break towards the lower side. That didn't happen. So as oil crumbles by over 4%, the Canadian dollar is not spared either. So it's still losing to the dollar. Even if the dollar is weak, what we are seeing here is an acceleration of the trend. So some of the key levels we were observing as targets included areas around this area here. Then we had this area here. Levels that previously worked as resistance, but the market has closed through this level here. It has closed through this level here. And of course, now it's more reasonable to expect that the market will be retesting this area here. So of course, if the bullish rally continues, then the expectation is that USD CAD ends up hitting a price action level of around 1.39458. So of course, there's still more room for upside potential, which means that anytime we have some of these pullbacks, they present good opportunities to buy at a lower price. So that's it for the day. I'll be checking to see if there's any questions, respond to the questions as we approach the end of the presentation. So I'm looking at the comment section. Hi, Leonard, thank you for joining. Hi, Wesonga Bwire, thank you for joining. I can see Wanjohi, JT Agencies, Alice, Felix, and Karan, thank you for joining. Happy to have a trader joining the session from India. This is really good. I appreciate you, Karan. So as we approach the end, I have a special request for you guys. If you really enjoy this content and you're watching on YouTube, kindly like and subscribe to the channel so that you can get notified whenever we have a new video coming up, a new live session. So these sessions happen every day from Monday to Friday at 11 a.m. So during that period, we discuss what are the top events for the day, what could be moving the markets, and this helps you trade from an informed perspective. So at the same time, if you're watching this on X, always try to share the video, like, and we appreciate this. So if you are looking to start your trading journey, you can check the links in the description below to register for an account. And if you're looking to learn, we have a free course available on FX Pesa YouTube called the Novice to Pro series. Kindly check it out. And this will help you transition from a complete beginner to a pro level trader. So as always, if you have any questions relating to the presentation, feel free to type them in the comment section and I respond on the go. So seeing requests from JT Agencies to check on Audi card. Currently, we haven't covered that. So we're checking that request. So it's not a chart that I have open. So I'll be loading the chart afresh. So we have seen that the Canadian dollar is pretty weak. And now we are looking at a market that is basically just bouncing from a key level support. So this is pretty interesting. Thank you for suggesting it. So might as well be a Monday's trade. So we are seeing a market that has been finding support several times from this area here. Also, we are looking at a market that has been forming this sequence of highs that are currently getting lower and lower. So notice how the market was following that trend and then changed to this, indicating that the trend is now getting stronger towards the bearish side. So from the forward chart, this is how it looks like. So a market that is finding some very strong horizontal support here, but then from the upper side, it doesn't seem to be making much progress. So while it might look bullish for today with this support level holding. Overall, it seems more of a bearish market that it has been forming lower highs and equal lows. So for now, for intraday trading, it might make sense to be looking for bullish positions, though it's still a Monday. So Monday, we don't expect much of a volatility unless something new happens. So of course, a very short-term target of the high of day might make sense given the kind of reversal we are seeing here and the market basically changing direction and moving back despite there not being any news for the day. Of course, we'll be getting that one speech towards the end of the day. Of course, that could bring in some volatility, but for now, towards the New York session, we might see some more push a little bit higher, but nothing spectacular for today. Perhaps something big on later days in the week. So a good question here, what is the best strategy for a swing trader? So remember I mentioned we have this Novice to Pro series available on FX Pesa YouTube. So one of the key episodes in that course is about trading strategies. So I would rather not answer your question in 30 seconds, but give you a more detailed session that I did that covers everything to do with trading strategies, and hopefully that will help. So after this, kindly check the Novice to Pro series and check the episode that is labeled trading strategies. So we have already covered gold, we have already covered pound yen. So I believe I've answered all the questions that have been raised. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for your time. Remember to check out the latest episode of the Bullish Banter podcast. And that episode is also available on FX Pesa YouTube. Just check it out. And if you enjoy the content, please share your feedback. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your trading day. We'll be having another session tomorrow at exactly 11 a.m. And of course, later on towards the New York Open, we'll be having another session at 4 p.m.